morning, everyone. Take a moment and talk a little bit about the Heart Hospital Garden. In particular, it's a great place. I love the common sense approach. We try to produce the best quality food there, so we grow it there, and daily we take it over there. So if you're ever eating in our cafe, that's the principle behind it. And so it's really being that straightforward is a beautiful thing. So this is entitled The Power of the Garden, which, let me say, we wouldn't be here without agriculture. You think about the ancient civilizations that existed, all of it depended on agriculture. Our cities, everything we know, our whole existence depends on a garden. The fact that we learned how to propagate from seed changed the human experience. So we're also seeing, I lost my PowerPoint there. That's an important part. We can grow food from seeds, change the human experience. It's also something that children need to know, and why the schools are important, because if you don't teach them, where are they going to learn? And so we've had a lot of kids grow up that didn't have access to a garden, unfamiliar with it. There's a lot of, and you get into a generational thing where my grandfather had a garden. I'm sure many of your grandparents had gardens in the backyard, in the front yard. Nowadays, it's not so common. So that was my first exposure, was through my family. So in Morrilton, you might have a little bit more of that than in the city, but it's important. And I'll get to a little bit of my personal experience with school gardens in a moment. But as Sue mentioned, I spent 5 years working in Little Rock at a children's library doing environmental programming, and I got to meet a lot of children over the years. And it was a really great experience to open up the world to them and go explore. And so I wanted to mention probably the most important thing about a school garden is this exercise of observation. It gets kids out there, it trains their mind to look at things. What is this? Is this good or bad? And so it's a very important thing to get out in nature and learn through observation, which in medicine is important as well. And it might be the answer to how we cure cancer and treat all these illnesses by that very principle, observation. So that's what a garden can do. And that lays the groundwork for very important human success in the future. So that's one thing. And that's really the most important skill, is being able to identify what is what in the garden. So that's what I would say to a lot of children. How does this look different than this? And that's where you can get kids involved with communicating with each other if you wanted to. And that's another benefit, is you can create teams to do a task. So I found that competition is a good way to really get things done. So I would encourage you to really push that. Let's get out. And so observation is a great skill. Once you're out there, you'll start to see, just take a step back and say, what are we seeing? Why are these bees on these flowers? And then you can talk about that. Of course, the pollinators are an important part of gardening. That connection has to be taught. But it's easy to see in a garden. So this whole idea of a eco-literate population can be started in the school setting, and it's very important, just the natural life cycles. And then you can get into biology, and any subject matter really can have a place in the garden, from math, where you're building beds, using dimensions, obviously any kind of earth science. Then you can get into social studies as well. So I encourage all the teachers here, I know y'all do have different specialties. I encourage you, when the garden goes in, to participate in it, because that's how you're going to be successful with it. Find a way that you want to be out there, how it's going to connect to your curriculum, and there's a lot of great research out there. And then, of course, you're doing all these things that we're talking about today. Moving, getting outside is great. So it's hard to garden while sitting, unless you're staying in the same place. You're not growing too much food there. So it also offers an important lesson of mutual dependence, right? In a society, a garden can say, well, in order to get the fruit, we need this to happen, pollination to happen, and we need the bees to be a part of this. It's a great lesson for us as a society as well. So that's another benefit of that. So again, there's the connection. This is where food comes from. That if it's not taught in school, kids, we saw from the earlier presentation that what is food, what is not food. For a lot of children, the Oreo packaging, anything in cellophane is food. And you'll get a reaction to a garden that's more fearful and intimidating because there's no exposure to it. So that is food to a lot of children because that's what they see and that's what's there. What you're seeing is some of the pictures from our garden this year, which of course is located about 1/8 of a mile from our kitchen, and we're doing it all there, so that's pretty cool. So I will talk about those benefits. If you wanted to start compost operation, that's really cool. Have you all ever felt a 160-degree pile of compost before? Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, just that can happen is a great life lesson. If you wanted to participate in some of the waste from the cafeteria or whatever else, that's a great lesson for children. And of course, an important concept in organic gardening. And then, that concept can be talked a lot about. So there's just a great way to start kids learning about the world. And a garden is a great place for nutrition, obviously, but just an understanding of how the world works. And what better lesson can there be? So talk a little bit, let me try to roll that footage of the garden. We have a video that's used by a drone footage, which I always wondered, what good is a drone? Taking pictures of a garden is pretty cool, so hopefully we can get that going so you can see it. Oh yeah, so this garden is about 3 residential in city lots, I would say. The actual growing space is around 1,700 square feet, divided into 7 beds of various lengths, but of course you see our beehives there. It's a beautiful garden. I love the raised beds, the gravel's very nice. It's just very, very pretty, and it's been wonderful to work in. I think Dr. Murphy for the vision to put it there, and I think a lot of people benefit from having it on site. And that's what, there's been talks of field trips, you can come there and see our operation. I'm happy to share what works for me and hear your stories about what you want to do, and we'll get there. That's all it takes is communication, and this is all done organically. Compost is very important, and so the idea that I know there might be some restrictions about putting it into your cafeteria, but certainly you're going to be able to produce a lot of food, and then getting people excited to take that home and cooking lessons and all of that from Day Fresh Produce is pretty cool. So I will mention why I'm probably standing here. It was at my junior high, the Dunbar Junior High in Little Rock. There was a school garden there. It was a partnership with the city. In the summer, they hired 5 people for 6 weeks for 20 hours a week. Kids. I was at 14 years old, and I saw this eating lunch, at school. There's a fence and a garden, and I knew somebody that was in there, and they, hey, we're hiring for the summer. So my dad was more than thrilled to get me to do that. So I still remember that vividly, going to the fence the first day and walking in, but so I'm still doing it. But that's no doubt a major important reason. But the other thing is that we had a really fantastic environmental studies teacher, and I don't think I really would have made that connection without her. Passionate teachers make the difference, and so I thank y'all for doing what you're doing. And that's going to be why this is successful and why I have such great memories of that garden and that experience with somebody there to teach me and to say, it's okay, you don't know about this, but we're going to get there, and to be patient. You're 14 years old and playing with your friends, and it can be frustrating for adults. I know that. So the exposure, having it on site's really important, and then the passion behind it, which I know you guys will have, and that's what I can offer specifically with gardening. And I've been doing it a while, so I'm happy to offer that expertise for y'all to see it be successful. So garden can offer many things, and it's an exciting concept to put here, and look forward to it. So thank you.